We're live. Hello, everyone. See, many people are already here, and people are already asking questions. No fooling around. Welcome, everyone, to Satsang. Welcome to the inquiry. Welcome to what I regard to be the most important inquiry and conversation going on in the human kingdom. And happy Easter. Happy Easter Sunday, the day that is supposed to celebrate the resurrection of the sage of Nazareth from the dead, and but was actually named. It's actually Esther Day, actually named for a Germanic god named Esther, who is the god of fertility. Springtime and rebirth and the earth coming back to life after dying. That's actually the origin of it. The everything kind of dying out in the winter and then coming back to life in the springtime. It was a perfect way for the Roman Empire to merge their theology of the death and resurrection into the local customs, which allowed them to kind of make the switch and appropriate the culture for their purposes, which was empire, not religion, and certainly they didn't care about the teaching of Christ. And that's why we get little, chicks and bunnies and, and flowers and yellow clothes and all sorts of things like that. But there is a very deep and penetrating mythology, a very deep and significant metaphorical message in the whole subject of death and resurrection. And Christ, of course, was not the only one to experience that. Many cultures have the story of a savior or somebody who dies and comes back to life, dies to pay homage, to be an offering, right? The part of the beautiful metaphor of it is that the highest offering one can make to God or the higher power, the being, the supreme being, the highest offering one can make is themselves. To sacrifice yourself on behalf, to completely surrendering your own ego, your own will, your own desires, your aspirations into the hands of the supreme being. I mean, it's turned into this, this horrible thing that Christianity has been distorted into. But looked at from the point of view of, I am surrendering my egoic desires, my egoic needs. I'm surrendering my ego. I'm surrendering who I think I am. This is the symbolizing of the snakes wrapped around the energy, the Shakti of in the chakra system. That there's this rising of the energy from the purely instinctual into the area of the heart, which is the surrender, the place of surrender, and then rising up into the higher levels, the resurrection into eternal life. The snake shedding its skin and becoming a completely new being. And it's no accident that the heart marks the center of our own being, that when you stand and put your arms out, you make a cross, which has always been the symbol of the intersection between the animal instinctual, or the body, and the divinity, or the absolute, that which is beyond description. And at the dead center of it is the human being. The human being is the divine made manifest. So the two aren't one, and you can't have one without the other. And so the cross represents this intersection between the instinctual and the divine, as well as between the past and the future. That's the left hand and the right hand. This absolute center of your being, which is out of time and out of space. It is timeless and dimensionless. It is neither divine nor human, nor is it nor is it both of those. It is a completely transcendent space. It's like the fulcrum of the wheel. Everything can revolve around the wheel. The wheel revolves around this center point. The fulcrum doesn't move, and everything flows around it. And interestingly enough, even the swastika, which got horribly got adopted by the Nazis in World War when they took power in Germany as their symbol, and so it's gotten associated with them, which is horrible, because what the swastika is a cross with lines added to give the impression of motion. And when you get that impression of motion, you get the wheel, and that's of course what the chakra represents, is this motion it's kind of like the Father and the Son, right? The absolute divine, and then the absolute human merged, and then the Holy Spirit is this energy of motion. You add the little lines of motion to the cross, you get the swastika, which it was actually a sign of a Buddha. I mean, that too is an extremely old symbol, thousands and thousands of years. It was around long before a Buddha, which was 2,600 years ago, right? 500 BC. It was way before that. So what we're seeing, if you really want to milk the meaning of this, is the idea of us, not a death of the ego, but the surrender of it. And it becomes dissolved in this open-hearted willingness to simply give myself fully to truth, to who I really am. And that can be symbolized as a death. And some people, it's kind of popular to call the ego death now, but it's not like that at all. It's more like the seed gets planted in the ground, and when it's planted in the ground, it appears to have been like a buried person. It's gone. But in fact, out of sight, it is germinating and sprouting, and once again it's going to become resurrected. This is a cycle that we can learn from. This is the cycle of our own redemption, as it were, of our own resurrection. But that resurrection follows always the crucifixion or the cutting off of the purely instinctual, the purely egoic, with all of its attitudes and its drives and its desires. Also, again, in the chakra system, that's what's symbolized by the lower and the higher chakras. Forget about the spinning vortexes of light in the body. It's not that. It represents below the level of the heart, which is this open place of surrender, where you sit at the feet of the guru, or you're willing to sacrifice to say, not my will, but thine be done. That's the energy of the heart. Prior to that, the ambitions of life are all about acquisition and survival. It's about the accumulation of wealth, of health, of progeny, of status, of significance, of place, right? These are all of the lower elements, and as you can see, they run the world. That's what's running the world right now. What's every advertisement for every self-help program is what? Get more money, get better relationships, get that life of your dreams. All extremely, these are all the things that have to be sacrificed. They die. All of the aspirations and all of life that has been based on that dies off. It is sacrificed. It is literally laid on the altar of the heart, which opens itself to the higher realms of experience, the higher realms of consciousness. And in that act of surrender, which is symbolized so beautifully by Christ's willingness to undergo this, and you have, we picture the sacrifice, oh, what a horrible thing. Remember, traditionally, being the sacrifice was a huge honor. There was a game that I think it was the Mayans, or was the Aztecs, I can't remember which one, in Chichen Itza, that have this stadium where they would play this game. It's kind of like soccer. It was a heavy ball, and about, I don't know, 8 or 10 feet up on the wall was a ring, like a basketball, right? And the mission to win this game was to get the ball into that hoop. And there were 2 teams, I think 5 or 6 players on each team. And they would compete heavily, and it was such a difficult thing to do. This would go on for like 4 or 5 days until finally somebody scored. And when somebody scored, the winning team, the captain of the winning team, was ritually sacrificed. And the captain of the losing team had to be the one that sacrificed him. Now we go, what, is that nuts? Right? They want the other guys. No, it was such an honor to give your life for the whole and for the deities as you knew them, that they played their hearts out to be the one that was sacrificed. And there's scenes, most of them are kind of morose. The Last Supper, it's always pictured of them all sad and this is terrible. But in one of the accounts of the gospel, I don't remember what it is, they actually dance, right? And sing, and it wasn't this somber occasion at all. He was simply going to meet his destiny. Even though it was harsh and he struggled over it, he was going to meet his own destiny. He knew his immortality. He knew it. He knew it in his heart. He knew the only thing that could be killed off would have to be any remaining dependency or sense of the humanness, and that this demonstration, this manifestation, this appearance of it had to happen. Now, again, historically speaking, archaeologically speaking, there's not any direct evidence that any of this even happened. There is circumstantial evidence and mentions of a fellow named Yahshua, which is his actual name. And then there's some historical things that said the believers in him believe that he was the Messiah, and the like. So the actual historical accuracy of it isn't important, unless you believe that God actually demanded a human sacrifice of that kind in order to satisfy his lust for blood. Unless that's your picture of God, it doesn't matter whether he did or not. I intuitively know that he did, and that he was a sage, that he was an enlightened being. As far as the whole thing, for the virgin birth, not a fact. That's a myth that came from other traditions. The death and resurrection, probably not. In my own intuition about it and what I've looked into it to see what's historically valid and what isn't. But that doesn't take away from it the message in it, the power in it, which was really consistent with his entire life. And that is the sacrifice of oneself for the truth. That's what satsang is about. That's the heart of this work. The inquiry is a laying aside everything that is not you. And in the beginning, you don't really know what's you and what isn't. You don't know. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but at the same time, you don't want the dirty bathwater. So you're in this position of having to just be totally humble, totally open, willing to sacrifice anything, willing to look at anything, to inquire into anything, to finally get to that place where you really do lay everything that you can on that altar of sacrifice. And what remains, what you cannot lay on it, that is, what cannot be cut away from you, right? It's got to be you, the pure you and nothing but you. And then you find that the one you are sacrificing to and the one doing the sacrifice are the same self. God sacrificing himself to himself, herself to herself. So on that note, I'm going to quickly scroll down to the bottom, see if there's any comments about stuff that I... Okay. And so the floor is now open. Once again, welcome everybody. Welcome to all my friends at the Enlightened World Network, who are also joining in here on Facebook. Anybody who might be watching this in my private group on Facebook. And of course my my old audience from YouTube, which is where this all started. All right, Roberto, hello, my friend in Madrid. GP, can one know oneself know whether he/she is awakened? Well, let's look at it together. What does that mean to be awakened? Whenever you know something, you know something. You have an intuitive hit. You just know, right? When you fall in love, you know you're in love. You just know. Nobody has to tell you. Nobody has to confirm it for you to feel confident. You say, I think I'm in love. Well, then you're not, because now you're thinking. And that's not, and love is not a thing that's thought, it's felt. And you have no choice, right? It's not, we don't choose who to fall in love with. We don't choose to awaken. But if you've begun the process of truly examining yourself, doing the inquiry to say, I've always believed this is true. Is it really true? And how do I know? Especially when there's a sense that I don't think this is as true as I thought it was. When you begin inquiring into all the things you've believed about yourself as to whether or not they're actually true, the very act that you're willing to look is a sign of awakening. Because if there's no awakening at all, your conditioned patterns, your unconscious thoughts are not questioned at all. They're just me. I just do it. I'm completely blind. I'm like a dog. I'm simply acting out the way I was trained and nothing more. But when there's a sense of, wait a minute, there's an awareness of the conditioning, well, that's awakening. That's where it starts. For some, that can be a huge opening, a huge thing that can bring about a transformation in a split second. That's rare, very rare. It usually happens in stages like this: an insight, a transformation, an insight, transformation, an integration. But that's all the awakening is. It can be experienced instantaneously, or it can be experienced gradually. But the moment there's a sense of recognizing that beliefs are beliefs and not an absolute truth, you have stepped into the realm of the awakening. Once that happens, there's no going back. It's only going to grow. It can meet with a lot of resistance because there's a lot of momentum hanging out around those old beliefs. The entire nervous system has been organized around those beliefs. So these beliefs have been implemented not just as thoughts, but as feelings, as emotions, as reactions, as memories, as associations, as all the meaning that we give to life, everything we desire, our aspirations, all of it have been determined by this conditioning. And so that's a lot of momentum that isn't going to just vanish overnight because I go, oh, this is just a belief. You can get it at the level of an awakened intellect, but the habit patterns of the mind, thinking, emotion, and sensation, as well as all the rest, that'll still be there. It can be protracted. It can go on for a while, but its days are numbered. It is going to. It is on the way out, right? It is the beginning of game over. So, and if you're not sure, ask somebody. And since I know you personally, I know that it's actually happened. Yeah, that aperture has opened a little. It's fighting now. It's struggling against all the old habit patterns. But there's no going back. There's no going back for you, I'm afraid. Rosario, also in Madrid, where Roberto is. Lily. Hi, GP and everyone. No messing around here. All right. Straight to the questions. Is there such a thing as being not present? There is the illusion of the absence of presence, but there is no reality in the absence of presence. Is there a moment when you are not present? There are many moments where you're distracted and you're not aware, where the attention isn't on the sense of you being here. But is it ever possible for you to not actually be here? Like all of a sudden you cease to exist and then you reappear later. Is that possible? Not possible. So you're always present. You're not always conscious of it, depending on where the attention is going at the time. With practice, you can become aware of where the attention is going and presence at the same time. And just think about it. In one moment, I'm conscious here, and I'm conscious of being present. And I call that I'm being present, right? As if I was absent. Right? And then there are other times when you're totally distracted, right? And you get totally distracted, and suddenly then you remember, oh, right, my own presence. And your attention then takes in that sense of presence. Now, were you not present, witnessing all the things that had distracted attention? Were you somewhere else? Well, obviously not. You couldn't be, or you wouldn't have been aware of all that. And later on, you became aware that the attention had wandered away from where you wanted it to focus, which it does until it's better trained. Right? And then you just turn it back inward again. But you're always present. That's what has to sink in. You're never not present. And actually, sometimes with work we do, if it's actually work requiring a lot of creativity or mental activity, a focus, a concentrated act, like writing software or writing a book, sometimes even writing an email, right? The majority of your attention is going to be on what you're going to do, and there won't be much left to be aware of your presence. But you are present whether the attention is on it or not. If you understand that, you realize you are never not present. And then you'll find that the sense of being present will become increasingly more subtle, and you'll begin to notice that it's always there, even when your attention is completely somewhere else, so that there's no conscious query into that sense of presence. You just know you know it's there. It ceases to be an experience of being present, and simply becomes the presence, the background to everything. And you don't need to be feeling it, because in fact presence isn't a feeling. If it was a feeling, there'd have to be something there to feel it. So presence is the absolute awareness that is aware of everything else and does not need itself to be an experience. So presence is not the sense of, oh, my attention is here now and I'm very present. That's a manifestation of it. The actual presence itself is simply you exist. You are. I am. That's it. And that is an eternal fact. You can never not be. So you are always present. Knowing that will eradicate the belief that somehow you're going in and out of presence. Oh, I'm not present now. It's never, ever, ever true. And you'll find with that belief dissolving that you'll be consciously present, even in the midst of the most intense things going on around you. They won't disturb that unmoving center, which is the actual nature of presence. which is so still and so unmoving, it can't be even detected. Remember, the mind and the senses can only detect change. They only detect motion. You know, if you walk somewhere every day or a couple of times a day, right? The mind will, first couple of times you walk, you notice everything, right? And after a while, you don't notice anything at all, right? Because if nothing has changed, the mind regards, oh, no problem, it's not a problem, there's no danger, I don't have to worry about it, and it pays no attention. It like gets removed from your field of view. Right? So that which never ever moves, never ever changes, is never the least bit disturbed, okay, is simply going to be completely uninteresting and unknown to the mind, which means your being, your true presence and beingness is completely unknown and uninteresting to the mind. And it is what is here all the time, but we don't notice it because it doesn't do anything. It's like, you know, there's space between your eyes and the screen you're watching right now. But you're not the least bit aware of that space, are you? In fact, that space is filled with the light of the screen, isn't it? At every millimeter, nanometer, right, between the screen and your eye, that this image is there, but you don't see it. Not until it hits the eye, and yet at the same time you're taking in the space filled with light. The light isn't seen, and the space isn't seen. Because there's nothing happening there. Well, your presence is that. It's not that you are present. Right? You are presence itself. You just are. You don't exist as something. You simply are. Existence is not an attribute of something. Right? It is the nature of being itself. You just are. I think I might have gone too far on that one. But I'll leave it at that. You are always the presence. You can't not be. And just check out what I'm saying. Look for yourself. Check it out. Is there ever a moment when I'm actually not present? When I'm gone, right? I don't exist, right? Now, there are times when I'm not consciously aware of it. Okay. But does that mean I'm not there? Obviously not. But look for yourself. Just check it out. Just check it out. Is it possible to not be present? And you'll see for yourself that if that were the case, you would cease to exist. Your presence, your existence are one and the same. Thank you, Lily. Sabugo, Miss Syria. I would be very thankful if you could clear out a doubt that I have. When I withdraw my attention from all that can be attended to, I notice that there is still awareness. Not just aware of any objects. Kind of a blank state with no identification with anything. But I also notice it is not necessarily a 100% sharp sort of attention. Is that the mind trying to convince me that this is just a boring state of mind? Or is this really the I am, the 0 point without any object, where everything else arises from? My intuition kind of tells me that if I abide here, it will show itself, to itself, as you once told me. But there's still a tiny bit of, as as if there could be an aloof state of mind. Many thanks. Wonderful question, Sabugo. Is it Sabugo or Sabugo? I think Sabugo. That would be my guess. When you draw your attention from all that can be attended to, I notice that there is still awareness. Just not aware of any object. Yes. Obviously, you are witnessing awareness, simply aware that there's no content, but you're still aware. It's completely empty of content, but you're obviously aware that it is empty of content. It's a blank state, kind of a blank state with no identification with anything, but it's not necessarily a sharp sort of attention. Okay? Well, is that the mind trying to convince you this is just boring? To an extent, but you're noticing that it's not a sharp attention. How can it be? There's nothing to see. If you look into, if you go into a room that's perfectly dark, right, you're not going to have sharp attention. Sharp attention implies an object being perceived. Boom, I have my attention on it now. So awareness is not a sharp attention. Sharp or blurred attention arises with an object and that focus that goes with it. Now, the sharp attention or blurred attention or the absence of attention altogether are all those not states, subtle states, being witnessed by awareness. Isn't even isn't even the noticing that it's not necessarily 100% sharp sword, isn't that also just a subtle bit of content appearing to awareness? This is subtle, but look very carefully. It's a subtle object. And it's no longer attached to a solid object in the world kind of thing, a gross object. And so it can get misconstrued, right? But it's still a very subtle object of mind. The observation, the noticing, right? It is, in fact, a focus of attention, a sharp focus of attention on this absence of a focus of attention. And so it is the mind commenting on this absence of content, which the mind does not like. No content, no mind. Right? So anything that appears within that field of awareness is going to be a subtle object of mind that isn't a thing that you can focus on like a solid object, but nonetheless has attention looking at it. Now, to what is this thought appearing? This observation about the attention, to whom is that appearing? Right? Is that appearing to itself? Or is that simply yet another arising in front of consciousness, trying to fill up what otherwise is completely empty? So, is this the I am, the 0 point without any object? Almost. It is the I am in the sense that it is still a subtle perception. The sense I am is something perceived. It's the first perception. It's the first sense we have. That sense I am is what we call our birth, or maybe even conception. That is the sense I am. Prior to that, there's just emptiness. Just pure consciousness, aware of absolutely nothing. Nothing but itself, but not as any kind of object with any kind of commentary. Right? So what you're doing at a moment like this is noticing the subtlest of perceptions are being perceived by the ultimate absolute awareness. And who is that? See, there's a tendency at this point to talk about the I am, or pure awareness, as if it was something other than yourself. Is it not you that is aware of this absence of the 100% focus of attention? Is it not you that is aware of that subtle vibration of I am? Is it not you that is aware that there's of this completely empty, of this space empty of content? But the mind is right there to try to make you and awareness two different things. But is not you who is aware of the awareness? And can there be two awarenesses? Is there something else aware of awareness that isn't awareness? What has to disappear is the sense of two. You are that awareness. You bring it home. It is a personal realization of Buddha knowledge, the awakened one. The awareness and the one that is aware are not two. I am awareness. I am not something that is aware. And awareness is not something of which I am aware. It is not a subtle object. It is the completely pure subject. Just look really close. Is it not you that is aware? This is where the mind just struggles, because it wants to make two. There's me and awareness. I'm something that has awareness. The mind does not want to see this happen. But in fact, it's already happened, because this is what the truth is. You are that. I am that awareness. I am that of which awareness is me. The ultimate answer is, it is me, myself. I am that. There are not two. It is you who sees there is no content. It is you who sees the subtle distinctions. It is you who watches the mind at this very, very subtle level, grasping for objects of mind. Does that you ever become one with whatever is being seen? And so can awareness be anything other than yourself? This is the place you ponder, right? And you see that awareness reveals awareness to awareness, because what else could there be but awareness? What else can see God but God? What else can know truth but truth? What else can love but love? These are all aspects of you. The invisible you. You can't see you because you're not an object, and you are not two, where you can look back at yourself. You are that. I don't know how else to put it. That's the threshold. That's the place you stand and you knock. You just cling to that. I am that by which I know I am. That's from Nisargadatta, by the way. Penny said, I just got news that my cousin has passed on. When one dies, where are they now? Well, when you went through puberty and went from being an adolescent little girl to now being, the beginning of womanhood, where did you go? Where did you go? When that 5-year-old turned into the 7-year-old, or the 11-year-old turned into the 13-year-old. When the dolls or the trucks or whatever you played with got set aside and other things came, you started listening to music or buying makeup or where did that other one, where'd the 5-year-old go? When you became a mother and all the transitions, all these transitions that have happened in your life. The major ones like, puberty, just an enormously physical shift in appearance. Very quickly, unlike most of the transitions, which are very slowly. It was the death of childhood, right? And, in cultures really up to the modern age, that was the death of childhood, right? At that time, right around that time, the boy was yanked out for an initiation ritual to merge him in as a man into and his responsibilities to the tribe, and the women were prepared to be mothers. That child was gone, period. But what actually happened to you during that? Where did you go? Well, if you are thoroughly identifying with the body, you'd have to say, well, I died, but I'm still alive with a different body. Oh, perhaps that gives you an insight into what this final dissolution of the body means from the perspective of the one who experiences it. From our perspective around here, suddenly that animating force of the body has abandoned that body, and the body just goes right back into the 5 elements, right back into the energy from which it's made. It gets transformed into something else and becomes topsoil or food for worms or whatever, right? But the animating principle, where did it go? Just as the animating principle, where did it go when you hit puberty? Nowhere. It's not anywhere at all. It's never been somewhere. It's always been a formless principle or field animating form. And at some point, that form has served its purpose, and it is let go. When the radio finally gets too old and breaks down and can't receive anything anymore, does that mean there's nothing being broadcast? No, it just means the receiver doesn't work anymore. The receiver can't pick it up any longer. It has worn out, right? As all forms do. All forms run through a cycle and then eventually just deteriorate. Nothing's really lost. You're not lost. The animating principle of it isn't lost. And just ponder it. If you subscribe to the idea of multiple lives, past lives, rebirth and reincarnation and all of that, how many lives have you been through? Right? And yet, in each one of those lives, the experience was exactly like this. The sense, I'm here, all these experiences, all these changes take place, right? Went through puberty yet again. Oh my God. Could you imagine going through high school 1,000 times? 4,000 years of high school. Oh my God. Please set me free from life, from birth. That'll make a saint out of you. But in every single one of those times, we are highly identified, and every time, where did they go? It's not someone going somewhere. Right? It is the one that is everywhere that appears in individual forms. Right? It's like there's a bunch of puppets up here performing on the stage, but there's one hand down here working them all. It's not really a great metaphor, but yeah, I'm a puppet. People aren't going to like that, but this body is not me. And I know it's not me because I've been through a bunch of different bodies. I've been through all sorts of different experiences, and yet at the same time I'm aware that there's something that has simply never changed. What is that has never changed? What is that has been aware of every single body you have appeared to inhabit? Whatever that is, it's you. But you can't, all I can say of it is me. I can't give it a name. I can't give it an identity. I've had thousands of them, right? I can't give it a form. I've had thousands of those, right? And if you even go further back, you find, oh, so I've had lives as amoebas, as blades of grass. I've been the deer, and I've been the cheetah that that ate the deer. I've been the mosquito. I've been the cockroach. Oh my God. I mean, you can look through a form upon form upon form upon form, but the I that apparently inhabited it, although that's an illusion, but I won't get into it, has never, ever changed. The awakening is discovering that you are that I and not the various forms that the I has animated. So your cousin hasn't gone anywhere. Yes, you're right now, through our normal means of communication and sensing and experiencing, you can't have a conversation with him or her. But that energy is still there, and in a sense, communication is possible, but I don't want to get into that because people think of spirits and, like they've got the same person is now got a different form, an ephemeral form. Their body now is like transparent, you can stick your hand through it and stuff. It doesn't work like that. But there is an energetic signature that lingers in the general atmosphere, but I don't need to go into all of that right now. So they haven't gone anywhere, my dear, and you can still feel them. You still know them. It's not the physical appearance, right, that you miss or that you companioned with. It was their energy you companioned with. Isn't that still here? Isn't it still there to companion with? Nobody ever goes anywhere. When this body goes, I will still be here. I'll still be checking up on you. Patricia, my dear, my heart is so full of love, respect, and gratitude to you. Thank you for creating this sacred space for us to gather together. So happy to be here with you and all dear friends. Oh, so wonderful. Thank you, Patricia. David and Elaine, everyone, love and greetings from us both, Southeast England. So glad you're here, guys. Robbie from Romania. Hello, Robbie. John Watson in Glasgow. Sorry. Oh no, COVID. Unclean. Sue McIntosh, hey GP, can everyone out there, please, could you talk about emptiness? It's so liberating. Well, that's kind of open-ended. How do you talk about that which cannot be perceived? How do you talk about emptiness? Talk about space. How do you talk about space? When people talk about space, they talk, stars and galaxies. They're talking about the content of space. How do you talk about the space? Emptiness. Emptiness is the nature of your being. It means you have no permanent, solid, unchanging definition. If you did, you would be something in particular. So let's say I'm G. I'm GP Walsh. That is who I am. Now, if that's the case, then whatever that definition of GP Walsh is, this body, this age, this life, these experiences, right? I would be limited to that. I couldn't change it, I couldn't grow, I couldn't evolve, because this is what I am. And this is what happens when we identify with the body. I become this. Now, we know in our hearts we're supposed to be able to grow, but the reason we don't grow and evolve is because we think this is who we are, and that this somehow is going to evolve and grow. It's not. The thing that makes it possible for us to grow, to evolve, to learn, to expand, to become more nuanced and subtle and gain wisdom and knowledge is the fact that you're not anything in particular. You are not actually defined by anything. This is the emptiness. So every time I think I am this or that, I have put what my actual emptiness, which is simply I am full stop, I have then given it a definition. Giving it that definition, I've crawled inside of that definition, and now I'm living as that definition. And until that definition changes, I won't be able to do anything outside of that. But the fact is, that wall I run into is a wall of the mind. And in fact, there is no wall, because you are not that. So in this moment, there's an appearance, right? There's a question asked. The question asked, the answer appears. Now, the way we speak about that is that there's a student and a teacher. And in the moment, you could say, the student appears with the question, the teacher appears with the question, and both the teacher and the student disappear with the answer. Because in that moment, you're not a student anymore. It's not a permanent identification. I am not a teacher. Teaching happens, right? And we can say, oh, he's a teacher, because with me, teaching happens a lot, right? But that doesn't make me a teacher. If I become a teacher, then I have to act like a teacher. I have the characteristics of a teacher, right? If I am inherently spiritual, I'm just spiritual. Now, if I become a spiritual person, now I've got these particular behaviors and I act like this. I basically become annoying, right? Because now I've got to soften my voice, and I've got to chant, and I've got to meditate 3 hours a day, and I got to wear certain clothes, and I can't eat certain things. At that point, I have become a definition. Emptiness is simply, I am, full stop. I am. That's a fact. What am I? Nothing in particular. I am pure emptiness. And that emptiness is not nothingness. It is infinite potential. There's absolutely no limit, restriction, or constraint on how I can appear in any given moment. And what I appear as is not predetermined by anything. It's not determined by me being a certain thing. It is what happens to appear in the moment that is a perfect response to the moment. So when I'm playing with my granddaughter, I'm not the spiritual teacher. The spiritual teacher is nowhere to be found. I'm on the ground. I'm rolling around. I'm playing with dolls, right? Or I'm making a puzzle, or I'm being a choo-choo train. I'm all of those things, right? And instantly shifting between them. I'm now playing hide and go seek, right? The teacher's nowhere to be found. There is no teacher. The teacher doesn't actually exist. It's a name we give to a functioning that happens at a particular moment. Look at everything in your life, right? Where you think, I am this. I'm a truck driver. I'm an accountant. I'm an artist. I'm a teacher. I'm an accountant. I said that. I said that probably because they're so mysterious to me. How can you do that? But you're not that. That's not what you are. And this is where we get stuck, right? This is where the suffering comes through. I I become that. When I do that, I limit myself to that. I think of myself as that. So take all of the definitions of you away, and what's left? Just this open, spacious, expansive being. That's emptiness. Shunyata. The self. The self with no definition, which is why Buddha most often referred to it as no self. It has no definition. But it's you. It's the consciousness that's hearing my words. The consciousness that you are is not confined to your body. It is not defined by your body. It is not defined by anything you do. The mind gets that way because the mind is a conditioned functioning, but the self is not. So emptiness is the great gift of freedom. If I am something, I'm stuck with it. I will be GP Walsh forever. And thank God I'm not that. And I'm not going to be GP Walsh forever. GP Walsh is a momentary appearing, nothing more. He's a cloud in the sky. Like clouds in the sky has morphed from one form to another, and then he will disappear. But me, I watched him come, I watched every shape he morphed into, and I will watch him go. And what's that watching? What is it that's watching that? That's the emptiness. Emptiness is another name for myself. I cannot define myself. What are you? No, nothing in particular. I have no idea. I just am. Full stop. That's all I know. What am I? No idea. No clue. I become or appear to become whatever this moment needs. Right now, it's a Sunday afternoon, and so this moment wants satsang. And I didn't even dream it up, right? The ideas came, put it together, people showed, satsang happened. I didn't even create it. Right? It just happened, and it created, in a sense, me, the appearance of me, appropriate for this setting. Emptiness is the most marvelous thing, but the most important thing to note about it is it's not an it at all. It is you. It is you without any reference to anything else except the one indisputable fact, and that is, I am. And that I amness is the infinitude of all potential. It is the I am that is the infinite motif that plays itself out over and over again throughout the entire universe in every single form that there is. And so you are emptiness. You are shunyata. Thank you, Sue, my friend in South Africa. Linda, hello Linda, so good to see you. Crispin, my friend in Switzerland, Mindful Zero. Holy crap, lots of people here already. You're getting a bigger audience. Yeah, it's actually slightly bigger. Slowly growing, which is the way I like it. Liza, hola to you, Liza. Ursula, Madeira Island, good to see you, Ursula. Christine Kroll, and hearts to you too. Dorte in Denmark. Mindful Zero, hey GP, hey Dale. I was feeling quite nihilistic earlier, then has now transitioned into a sadness and also thankful for this moment. Any thoughts on what's going on? Well, yes, the nihilism, the sadness, right? Remember, we have an attachment to our identities. And the realization that that identity is not who I am doesn't eradicate in a split second our attachment to it. And when, the attachment just isn't, I want to be that, because when you realize it's not that, and it's actually inhibiting you from fully realizing yourself. You don't want to be that anymore. But the whole nervous system has been playing that part so well for so long, it's not ready to give it up. And so it'll have this feeling of, I'm dying, I'm being destroyed, which is the nihilism. Nothing's left. It will be oblivion. Right? Because it's so used to being this, it can't imagine being something else. And then sadness about watching it go. I mean, it is, your identities, they've been your friend, they've been your companion, they've been with you all this time. They've protected you, right? They've gotten you stuff, right? You show up with a specific or a particular kind of identity applying for a job. That identity works. You got the job, right? That's not you, right? That's just a role you are playing. Not deceptively. It's just what we do, right? It's just kind of the way it works. So all of a sudden, these things that did work in your life, right, those are let go along with all the things that did work. This is the kind of deep transformation that takes place throughout the entire system, starting with that sense of an insight that I am actually that emptiness. I am no one in particular. And so that letting go of the things that you've depended on can feel both nihilistic, the ego death, the crucifixion, and sad, the mourning over the crucifixion, because there was a sense of the death and no realization of a resurrection. Just to put it in Easter terms. So there's always that kind of a thing going on. Oops. There it is. For some reason my camera had a little glitch in the camera not, so it might have gone black there for a second. So I know that it's a short answer, but it's like right to the point. Take a step back, look at the feeling of nihilism, looking at the feeling of sadness, and notice that those are modulations, those are modulations of experience, modulations of consciousness, and that you are aware of them. The one that is aware of the nihilism is that nihilistic. The one that's aware of the sadness is that sad. Is sadness just kind of this experience that's being had, or is it an actual condition of you, the one witnessing it? Get that space, and you just let the sadness be there, and eventually it will exhaust itself, and you will find that the sadness does not apply to you, the one aware of it. That the one that is aware of experience is not subject to the experience. This is the great liberation. And then you can just let everything that needs to happen in the whole body-mind complex that needs to, in order for it to move into the new place of giving expression to who you really are. And it'll do so quite unobtrusively. And it won't bother you. You won't think there's a problem that I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling nihilistic, because there isn't. It is not a problem for you. You are the consciousness. And it's actually not a problem for the body-mind, which is not conscious, so it's not experiencing it anyway. So it's just kind of this energy that has come up. You're witnessing it. Stay as the witness without any vested interest in it. And it'll eventually exhaust itself and just disappear. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Greetings from the hills of Florida. Love you, GP. Hi there, Issy-ness. The hills of Florida. I didn't know they had hills. I lived in southern Florida. I didn't see any hills. I mean, there was a couple of ant hills. I guess I haven't gotten to all of Florida. Kieran, hello GP, hello Kieran. David and Elaine, could the neti or not this approach of Advaita become a practice of exclusion or a form of aversion therapy where one distances oneself from the object of suffering by abiding as the witness of it, therefore creating a subject-object relationship in which the cause of suffering may never be addressed or resolved. Well, first off, the purpose of the practice of neti, not this, not that, I am not this, not that, is not primarily therapeutic. And just recognizing I am not this and not that is not an attempt to get rid of or do an end run about what it is you are saying, I am not this and I am not that. If it is, then what you're talking about is happening. I'm now using it as a clever way, right? It's now a non-dual way of trying to do a spiritual bypass, to try to do an end run around the traumatic energy that is coming up in front of me. The act of knowing that I am not this, right, provides one the space, right? But there's nothing in that practice that says that means this should go away, get rid of that, right? It isn't a go away, I'm not you. It's not that at all. It's a recognition that no matter what kind of turmoil is taking place here, I'm sitting in a place, my consciousness is actually sitting in a place that is calm, that is stable, that is knowing, and is full of compassion. And therefore, there has no resistance whatsoever to that other energy being there. If there's an identification, I'm going to be taking a position with it. I'm either going to be wallowing in it, woe is me, I've got all these problems, or I'm going to be trying to get rid of it in some way, right? So neti does not work for that, right? And in fact, as that disidentification takes place, the resistance to this goes down, all the suppression goes down, and it can get bigger, it can get more intense, it can ripple through the entire system and feel quite amazingly excessive, right? It can really kind of blast your eardrums. But if you're really abiding in that unmovable place, you won't be resisting it at all. You'll allow it. You'll allow it to be there. And you'll feel it, but even all the feelings, as traumatic as they might be, as overwhelming, as intense, that whole tsunami happening, you'll be sitting in the place of being the witness of it. And the only reason we would resist the tsunami, right, is because we don't want to feel it, right? We want it to be something else. So if I'm doing neti to try to end run or get rid of these negative feelings, oh boy, you got a little surprise coming. Here comes the next wave. It does exactly the opposite. It positions you in the place that has no identity, therefore no relationship with what is happening. So at this point, you can fully embrace what is happening with no resistance. And then, that energy being liberated, it will find the easiest, quickest, and most painless path to the resolution of that trauma and the discharge of the energy. So, did I get it, David and Elaine? Did I get and understand your question correctly and answer it fully? You'll let me know. Hello, Barbara in Sweden. Robert Dosa, also in Romania. Good to see you, Robert. Mindful Zero, there you are. Dale, yeah. Feel a thankfulness for this precise moment, but also sad that it has to end. Pretty emotional today. Oh, that's a very good sign. We've kept our emotions in check, right? the sense of identity allows some emotions, doesn't allow others. As the identity begins to fall away and our sense of self expands and takes more in, the suppressed emotions are going to come up. And you can find yourself crying for absolutely no reason whatsoever, you know. Or something really tiny happens, something totally insignificant, and you bawl your eyes out. You can find yourself laughing at funerals, and it can be quite confusing. It can be quite confusing, but don't let it's just what's happening when you're really setting your whole energy system free to feel. You know, the way children feel. You know, a child, you watch a child, they'll go from laughing their ass off to and back again, instantaneously. You know, 1 minute they're mad, the next minute they're hugging you. Because there's no checks, there's no censoring. They're pure feeling. Right? This is where you're headed back to. That kind of spontaneous feeling and the unapologetic energy to express it without any sense of the consequences of it. Like a little kid running naked into the room, right? No sense of no sense of self-consciousness whatsoever. That kind of freedom is what this inquiry offers. It's not just, I really want to make the point, it's not just this liberated from the identity. The entire system is liberated from that which is containing your entire juicy experience of life. Because there's nothing inhibiting it anymore. You feel life to the fullest. And you're ready to let it go when it's time to let it go. You let everything be as it is, loving it when it comes, loving it when it's here, and then loving it when it eventually leaves, as everything does. Beautiful. Thank you for that, Dale. Sneratan. Why I am always in my head. Want to get rid of it. Want to feel like young again with no thoughts. Just presence and feeling the time. Is it continuation? No. Okay. And feeling the time. Good. I'm glad. Oh, it jumped on me. It jumped way ahead on me. Sorry about that. Wow, way back there. There you are. Wow. All of a sudden, the question just kind of shoop, went down to the bottom. Why am I always in my head? We go into our heads as a defense against feeling because our feelings have become too painful to feel. That's what happens. One of the ways in which we suppress traumatic material is we go into our heads. We think about things rather than actually feel things and experience things. And this has happened to everybody. Everybody goes through this. And then we end up living in a world that is extremely in its head. So far in its head that it has lost all connection to nature, to any reference point that makes any kind of sense. I mean, even our monetary system doesn't have its roots in anything. They just make numbers up. Okay, we're just going to invent another $3 trillion. There's nothing of substance there, right? It's just completely vacuous. Right? So this is what we do. Going into our heads, we lose touch with any genuine reference point that gives us a sense of grounding. And we do it because we don't want to feel our pain. The remedy, feel your body and allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling when you're feeling it. That's the remedy. And you'll notice that when you simply attempt to just feel your body for a minute, that your mind will be very busy trying to distract you, to get you to think about something, get you somewhere else. Or if you do manage to have some attention there, your mind will be commenting on, oh, that's a bad feeling. Well, I don't like that feeling. That's not very good. This is a good feeling. All right, we'll stick with this. There'll be this constant narration about what you're feeling. The mission is to feel without commentary, to have the direct experience of the sense of being that is non-conceptual. Because your real being is not a concept. It's not an idea. Life is not thought, it's felt, right? Who wants to think about life? You want to think about getting kissed? You want to get kissed? I mean, let's, right? We don't want to be in our heads, but it's a defense against the pain we've felt. And so we have to begin the journey back the way we came, back in to kind of shine the light of love on those parts of us that are afraid to be felt. Like the little kid you mentioned, no thoughts, just presence, right? Little by little, they are taught that certain feelings, when they get expressed, run into danger. They run into problems. They're punished. They're hurt in some way. They're diminished. They're shamed. You shouldn't feel like that. You shouldn't think like that. You should feel like that. You shouldn't do that. And what the child does, because its natural exuberance is just to do it, it shuts off the feeling that is giving rise to the particular, just completely unbridled behavior it's normally in. And so those feelings get suppressed. It doesn't want to feel those, because if it acts them out, it gets in trouble. And so the child begins to learn, right? It begins to adapt to the environment. This feeling is not okay. And little by little, it becomes increasingly in the head. Various degrees, some people more than others. Some get so far in their head, it's like they don't have a body at all, right? It's a complete rejection of the body. And so what you're doing is you're bringing attention back to simply feeling. And that becomes a doorway into the deeper understanding, the experiential understanding of your true nature as consciousness. It gets you out of merely thinking about it and actually feeling it as the ever-present and current reality that you are living right now. Right? And so it is simply a matter of re-educating your attention and giving yourself permission to feel what before you wouldn't let yourself feel. And you didn't let yourself feel because it was dangerous to feel that. That's where it came from. So you're making it safe to feel what you're feeling in this moment. By removing the judgments of it, removing the narration about it, noticing how you don't want to feel it and how the mind is working to try to pull you away from it, saying, okay, I get it. I know what you're doing. Thank you. I don't need you right now. I'm just going to feel that. I call that the yoga of allowing. And it's extremely powerful. And it will get you back in touch with at the level of feeling, which is also the level of the heart. That's where the heart begins to open. To empathy, to intuition, to a felt experience. The juice of life, right? The touchy-feely stuff. Which makes you more present in everything, more present in your relationships. The relationships will get juicier because there's so much more of you there, and there's so much more being felt in every given moment, and every given moment is appreciated more and more and more. So, I hope that helps, sir. Awakened ANFJ, hello from Sweden, namaste. Namaste to you. Love you, GB. Thank you for you. You're welcome, mysterious anonymous Facebook user. Tatiana in Toronto, hello. Alexandra in Ireland, good to see you. Steffi has a weird question. Oh, okay. All my life, there have been weird occurrences with electricity. Wherever I live or stay, light bulbs burn out and electric devices die. some of them in a spectacular way. Have you ever heard of incidents like that? Is this just a coincidence, or might there be a context? For example, is my energy field or anything related to that? Thanks a lot. Well, first off, it's nothing to be concerned about, except you might want to get LEDs instead of incandescent lights because they're cheaper. And they tend to last longer. You might not have the same kind of problem. It's really not a big deal. Everybody has, there's more to us than just this physical form, clearly. And people have different kind of electrical energies around them and that sort of thing. I know there are some people who can't wear a watch. It just stops. It just breaks. I know other people that for the life of them, they just can't get a computer to work right. Anybody else can use the computer and it's fine. They use their computer and it does, something always breaks or disappears or right. It's just the subtle relationship we have with anything. Don't make any kind of a big deal out of it all. You've lived long enough to find your way around those things, so that you're functioning. You go visit somebody, you might warn them, change the light bulbs, let's use candles instead. Right, and so first off is don't make a big deal out of it. It's nothing that has to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with you. There's all sorts of subtle energies and things going on that we're just completely oblivious to for the most part, and we don't have to be completely aware of those in order to come to the place of awakening. That's extremely important. In order to wake up, to come to know who you are. This is all just kind of the accoutrements. This is all the stuff that comes with existence. Well, the experience of life as a human being, it's made up of all these different kinds of piece parts, all these different kind of functionings, invisible energies as well as visible energies. Right? So, but none of that is who you are. All of that is part of experience. And you're not the experience you're having, you are that which is having the experience. And it is neither positively or electrically charged. It is not electrically charged at all. It is prior to all energetic patterns, however subtle or overwhelming or overt they may be. So yes, I've heard of those kinds of things. I've heard of things in spectacular ways. It's nothing to worry about. And in fact, you can just become conscious of it, and you can even, at some point, direct your energy system, say, hey, can you guys cool it a little bit? I've run out of light bulbs, right? Don't forget, this energy serves you. All of this energy serves you. And it seems to be out of control and just doing things because we don't realize that. We think we're subject to these things. We think we're subject to the world around us. And in fact, it's subject to you. You are the center of this universe. You are. You are the universe. The universe is such, because it is infinite, as Black Elk, the Native American, said, its circumference is nowhere, and its center is everywhere. That's the nature of the infinite. No matter where you stand, you are in the center. You are the center of the universe. It all revolves around you. And I don't care who I'm talking to, it's always the same, because it's this infinite field that appears as many different beings, but in fact is only one. So, take that to heart. Don't turn it into a quest, okay, I've got to fix this now. But every time it occurs to you, go, okay, guys, just like your own inner work that you've done with me, right, of just being present with what you're feeling and letting it be there. This is just a broader application of the same thing. Oh, well, this is all me as well. Okay, so more of the energy to reconcile with and to bring into integration with you so that it serves you. The whole universe is that. So enjoy being the center of the universe. Interesting, the sacrifice story. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, said Robert. There's Anna G. GP with you and all, always. Thank you. You're welcome. Jen Henson said, I started this process in 2017, absolutely stored in our cells. Yes. But it's just storage. It hasn't taken up permanent residence. It doesn't have a mortgage. It doesn't own the place. It's a tourist. It's a tourist. And armed with that knowledge, you can be really gently, you can stop trying to evict it, right? And instead embrace it. Right? Bring it, instead of trying to get it out of the system, bring it into a place that is so safe that it can make its own natural transition from its defensive function to its expressive function. And you find that all of that energy stored in your cells is the same energy of creative power when it is liberated from its defensive posture. Hi Fiona, hi from Greece, hi all to be here. Robert Doe says, a wise man said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Yes. Once we are awakened, we can change all of the beliefs that we have installed into our system. Yes. And you'll find that you're not actually even changing them. That the awakening itself, because it is self-realization, that it's not an act of will to choose to change a belief. Once you see a belief as a belief, it's over. You don't have to change it, right? So it's not that kind of an act. Just be really clear about that. The act of awakening automatically exposes a belief as a belief, and exposed as such, not being tricked anymore, it eventually drains completely out of the nervous system. So it is the most natural process there is. There's never a need for an act of will. I've got to get rid of this belief. You don't have to do that. If you do that, you don't really understand the nature of belief and the whole functioning of the nervous system. You need a few more tweaks. Greetings from Naples. Hello, Mark. Good to see you. Very good to see you. Happy girl. Hello, everyone. Is it possible to heal scars, for instance, those you get from surgery, like a C-section, etc.? I mean, also energetically, so that the chi can flow uninterruptedly. The answer is, of course, yes. The body is not a thing. It is a thought. It is just the flow of sensation. And it isn't even really energy. Energy is a word we gave because we don't know what the hell it is. Nobody knows what energy is. In fact, scientifically, energy is nothing but a unit of measurement. It's like saying, well, that's just feet and inches. What does that mean? Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. We grab on, oh, it's all energy, and we have no idea what energy is. Nobody knows what energy is. Well, that's not true. Those who are awakened know what it is. It's actually consciousness. Everything is made of consciousness. And consciousness is not made of anything else. It is the irreducible, indivisible essence, the self. The form that it takes, right, is completely determined by the beliefs we hold about it. Now, the reason I say I'm reluctant to go to this place is because the mind can get fixated on trying to make a particular change to the appearance of things, and thus create an enemy of the condition as it exists. In this case, you could say a scar. I'm really embarrassed of this scar. I've got a scar on my face, and I'm really embarrassed about it. I'm very self-conscious. I want to get rid of it. That becomes... Now, the scar itself is non-problematic. It's just a mark. It's just what happened. The motivation to change that, to fix that, is an attachment to a particular way of being or a particular way of appearing. That a desire for things to be different than they are. Now, the potential in awakening to change the form of anything to anything is actually there. It's the ultimate alchemy. But the wisdom that comes with the awakening is the awareness that it's absolutely perfect the way it is. It doesn't need any changing. And so there's this equanimity and an appreciation of the very beauty of it. Just like the internal woundings that take place, that drive us to seek awakening, and eventually drive us to transcend those very events. Those scars or wounds become the very catalyst to awakening to who you actually are. So the very first step in harmonizing with the natural energy that can, if it needs to, erase even the deepest scar on one's body, is to completely allow everything to be as it is, to accept things as they are, as the way they should be, and drop the idea that it should be different. This is a big one. Oh, this is a big one. Well, I shouldn't have to look like this, or shouldn't have to feel like this, right? Who said you shouldn't have to? It is the resistance to what is that creates the suffering. Take whatever the scar is, like from a C-section. Right? Take what that is, right? And remove from it any comparison with any other state, including the memory of what it looked like before the C-section, or what somebody else looks like, or some model in a magazine looks like, or some 20-year-old at the gym. Put all of that aside. Don't compare it to anything at all. Ooh, this is such a powerful practice. And if you don't compare it, is there anything wrong with it? And I will guarantee you that if you do that, you will find a beauty in it that you didn't see. It'll be an artistic beauty. You'll appreciate the meaning of it, the intent of it, everything around it, what it represents, the significance of it, even the way it looks. When you drop your argument with the way things are, there's no longer any need to make anything any different than it actually is, that it is right now. And at that moment, when there's absolutely no resistance, if life believes, if life decides we don't need this anymore, it will remove it. You are free from it. Your whole sense of well-being has become free from conditions. And that's what genuine freedom is. And that's what genuine well-being is. Well-being is, or freedom, or self-acceptance is the sense of my own value and completeness and wholeness, my well-being, with no dependency whatsoever on any other condition. I simply am absolutely perfect. And if I don't compare myself to anything else, past, present, or future, the only conclusion I can draw is this moment is perfect. And that's the challenge, because your mind is always comparing. That's all the mind does. It is the functioning of comparing. So it's going to say, oh, that's not very good. Look at over there. And the only thing that ever creates is suffering. It never creates anything other than suffering. It does not help one improve. It does not help one grow. All it does is make one feel bad. So I highly recommend you drop all of those things that make you feel bad. And comparing this moment to some other moment is a guaranteed way to do it, and yet this is what we've all been taught to do. So, the chi, as you say, I mean, also energetically, so the chi can flow uninterruptedly. The chi is flowing uninterruptedly. And it just happens to be flowing in this way. But the chi knows what to do. It did the whole thing in the first place. Trust that life energy. It knows what it's doing. Right? It's only the ego that disagrees with it. The chi doesn't have a problem. The body doesn't have a problem. The scar doesn't have a problem. It's only the mind. You don't even have a problem. It's only this voice that says this is a problem. Without that voice, there is no problem. Thank you, happy girl. Stay happy. Robert Dose is just so true. I know for a fact that if someone visits your hometown, the city you know, like the palm of your hand, and you go around the town, you notice they see things that you never knew were there. Yes. Yep, that's absolutely right. Hey, Jay, good to join us. Yes, that's absolutely correct, Robert. Somebody who you grew up with, they go away, they come back, and it's like, whoa, wow, look, because everything's different now than they remember it. So the nervous system's active, it's paying attention. Stay for a while, all fades in the background again. This is simply the way it works. Evan Solus, hey GP, so our awareness is always there. Is it our thoughts that block this from awareness? Is your thoughts our ego? Thank you so much. A lot of hearts. Thank you, Evan. Ivan or Evan? Yes, the ego is nothing but a collection of thoughts. There is no ego, okay? It's not a thing generating bad thoughts. It's just the kind of the distortion of language that gives a name to something that's actually a functioning and not a thing, which is everything, by the way. Everything is a function. There are no things. Everything is just a flow of life force, of chi, of energy, whatever you want to call it. Right? Nothing ever solidifies into a thing and becomes solid. It's always in motion. And the sum total of all your thoughts about I is the ego. That's it. That's all there is to it. So it's not a thing generating thoughts. Ego is a word for a particular pattern of thoughts. Seeing that, it becomes very easy to spot the pattern and say, okay, and back away from it and go, okay, I'm not participating in that pattern anymore. Boom, you are taking the bricks out of the wall of the ego. Okay? So awareness is always there. It is our thoughts that block this from awareness. Nothing can, the thoughts that are being seen, even the thought that it's being blocked from awareness, are those not being seen by awareness? I'm trying to bring you guys to see that awareness is always here. It can't not be here. Attention can come and go. Thoughts can come and go. But they always come and go to awareness. It is not a particular state. It is not something you get to, I'm aware, I see, there's awareness. Oh, and now there's all these thoughts. I'm not in awareness. What's aware of all of these thoughts? And the reaction and the feelings and all of it. Awareness is the absolutely silent background that hears every word, sees every deed, and every single thought, including the ego. It sees all of it. Right? So the belief is thoughts block awareness. And so then we act as if awareness is being blocked and we go looking for it. All of that's taking place in front of awareness, including the going to look for awareness. It's all being watched by awareness, right? If there was no awareness there, could you see any of these thoughts? Could there be any seeking? Could there be an ego? They simply could not exist. They would be nothing, because you would be nothing. You are that awareness that is so motionless that it is undetectable to the senses, to the mind, to the feelings, to anything. It cannot be detected. Like space. Take everything out of space, and how do you detect space? Awareness is space-like. It's even more subtle than space because it's perceiving space. It has no dimensions. It does not exist in time. It cannot be perceived at all. You simply know it because it's you. You are that. And all it is the sense, I am. I exist. Which is always a fact, whether the thought I am is there or not. Right? And before even the thought I am, or the feeling I am, which precedes the thought, could appear, you have to be. The feeling I am couldn't appear if you weren't there first. So the ultimate you has nothing to do with any experience. It is the imperceivable reality. And you are that. You and that reality are one and the same. So you cannot know you directly. You only know yourself through what reflects you. Like music without a song. It is unknowable until it takes shape as a song. It is the potential for every possible song. But in and of itself, it is simply the principle that allows for the arising of songs and symphonies and concertos and everything that goes with it. That's you, unknowable. But the awareness that's always there. Notice that no matter what the thought is, no matter what's happening, there's an awareness of it. Even if there's absolutely no thought whatsoever, completely empty like space, there's an awareness of that. And aren't you that? Is that not yourself? That's what you bring your attention to. And one of the functionings that we notice is the functioning around the thought of I am. The constructs of the mind about what the self is and what consciousness is and what non-duality is and what I am. That thought I am is just a thought. It isn't you because it's a thought appearing to you. But this is the confusion. The mind's version of I speaks the word I, and then there's a sense of identification as if the mind was referring to you. It's not. It's referring to something else. It's just using the word I. But it has a completely different picture because it can't see you. Nothing, no one can see you. You can't see you. You can only be you. That sense of knowing that you are arises out of the pure absolute being, the fact that you are. Hopefully that covers it for you, Yvonne. Jen Hewson is what asks of a state of city. Is that let's see, is what asks of a state of city? I'm not 100% sure I understand your question, Jen. But cities are particular powers that may or may not come in an awakened being. And there are many people who awaken the city powers who are not actually awakened. And in that case, when that happens, their ego gets very, very strong. And it becomes very, very difficult for them to awaken. There are some people who have awakened and they've gotten marvelous, these incredible city powers, manifestation, all sorts of things. Most of the sages that I follow, Nisargadatta, Ramana Maharshi, Muji, Buddha, they didn't. They didn't have those kinds of powers. Extraordinary things would happen around them, but they weren't doing anything. Right? There was just kind of an energy field where people would have experiences, but it wasn't like a power. There was no person there anymore. There was no personal power. There was no volition. There was no will. There was no need for any kind of power, whether it be, mundane power, like a power of authority or a power of money or a buying power or something like that, or this extraordinary, power to, wave your hand and manifest things, or read minds, or any of those kinds of things. Those powers aren't significant because there's nobody there to use them. The one who would want those powers is gone. That is the ego. So the real sages always warn against trying to acquire the city powers. If they happen, they happen, right? And they will happen on their own. The sage has no use for them, has no interest in them. As Nisargadatta, he's talked about that. Yes, you can learn how to do that if you want, right? But I have no use for it. Yeah, so, hello, Hendrik, good to see you. GP, where's your attention during the day? Wherever it needs to be. It's not complicated. Before satsang, my attention was, having a little something to eat, because I forgot to eat. I haven't eaten anything today, except a little snack in the morning. I made sure everything was set up. I actually had an interview at 8:30 this morning, or 8 o'clock this morning, that I participated in. So I had to set it up early. In between that, I took a drive. I had to get some things at the store. I took a walk. I went up to the roof, looked around. My attention when I was on the roof was on Elliott Bay, which I can see nicely from the roof. So my attention just goes wherever it happens to go. I guess what your really question is what about the sense of awareness? The attention is there, and for the most part, I'm also aware of being aware. I'm aware of the attention. That there's the two they're not separate. They're not separate. They're one and the same thing. I can't be, my attention can't be reporting to anything other than me, the awareness. And so wherever it happens to go, it's talking to me, it's reporting to me, and I'm always the point of cognition. So it's always there. Even if I don't have a thought of I'm aware of being aware, I'm aware of being aware. It's what I am. It's what you are. It is what's always happening. That recognition will take it out of the realm of sometimes I'm aware, sometimes I'm not. You always are. Marty, thanks for blessing my Easter with this satsang. You're very welcome, Marty. Hi from Sweden, from Sandra, with a last name I won't even try to pronounce. Awakening IGM is laughing. Sandra, and talking to other people in Sweden. Nuaf, AGP, Nuaf from Saudi. Greetings to you and the guests. I have a question. After awakening, how the relationship and interaction change with the ego, which is part of us. Well, it's no longer seen to be an entity. It's just seen to be a pattern of thought that was created by the nervous system based on the conditioning there. And therefore, it ceases to be any big deal at all. It ceases to exist as an entity, and it's seen as simply a function. When I make it into an entity, it's a problem I've got to solve. It's like this thing that's fighting my best intention. But I created that. I gave it the status of entity. When I see that it's not an entity, it's just a functioning, like my stomach digests food, mind creates patterns of thought around the central thought I. That thought I originated with I am the body. That's the origin of the ego. And then all the ideas about what I am based on the body as the model. When that falls away, the ego falls away. And it ceases to exist as an entity, and you just see patterns of thought. But liberated from that sense of there being an ego, the patterns of thought begin to morph into other things. And eventually you find what happens is, it's just the very spontaneous and natural way we respond to a given moment. So that when I appear in satsang, the teacher appears. Right? It's not an identity, it's not an ego, it's not a thing. It's a functioning, I call it the teacher, that appears. When I go to the grocery store, the grocery shopper appears. Do I want the kale or do I want collard this time? Do I indulge those crackers, right? Then the shopper is there, right? And then the shopper disappears, and you find that ego or the identity is a completely fluid thing that is simply the way the now liberated energy system responds to every given moment, right? Appearing and then disappearing, appearing and then disappearing, and nothing is fixed anymore. I, myself, what am I? Nothing at all. Nothing in particular. How do I appear? Whatever the moment needs, I appear as that. Very simple. It's very, very, very simple. So the functioning that we call ego, liberated from the concept ego, is simply us showing up with every resource with the perfect intelligence that makes everyone that you show up for feel your presence and your wisdom and your compassion and how perfect your response just happens to be, because there's no more ego in it. The idea, concept of ego is gone. And therefore, the functioning of the nervous system in its creative power to accurately express you and what's needed in the moment is seen for what it is, and that's what gets liberated. Thank you, Nuaf, my man in Saudi. Terilius, is awareness private or individual or local enough that it remains separate to reincarnate? No, it is not. If it was local, it would have a boundary, right? And if there was a boundary, there would have to be something aware of that boundary, which means it's aware of the boundary and what's on the other side of the boundary. Awareness can't have a boundary. The infinite cannot have any kind of definition or line drawn around it. Can't. Right. So that means awareness doesn't go from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. Awareness experiences form upon form upon form upon form, and the identification with those forms, and the birth and death of those forms. The awareness itself never goes anywhere. It's non-local. It is not personal. It doesn't belong to someone. The person appears and disappears to awareness. The person is a construct. It is the appearance. It is just a form. And even the sense of identity and the one who appears to be identifying with it is also just appearing. All of it is being perceived by that which never moves, never changes, is absolutely stable, and to which everything in the universe throughout all time is reporting. So every life has simply been a series of appearances in front of the unmoving awareness. So it's not private, it's universal. There's only one of them. And that can be a hard thing to grasp. So don't try to think of it as I'm going to see things through other people's eyes. You're going to see that there aren't other people's eyes. There's only you. And you are experiencing yourself as other. I'll let that go for now. Ahmed in Detroit. Hello, Ahmed. Juliana, hi there. Hi to you too. What do you think about Kundalini yoga? And do you practice yoga asanas? Can it help on the way of enlightenment? Well, anything can help. I practice some. I'm not a yogi. I'm not a dedicated practitioner of yoga. I actually like to work out with weights. I kind of like the buzz and the muscle. I like the feeling of the masculine body. As long as it lasts. So I don't. I do some stretching, and when I'm with some friends of mine who do it, I will do it, and I really enjoy it. I just never made there's been times where I've practiced it more extensively. It helps in the sense, and of course, the yoga that we practice in the West is dedicated primarily to the body. Now, originally, Hatha Yoga was developed as a mechanism for helping people get into their body and thus prepare them for meditation. It is one of six paths of yoga. Raja and what's the other? Seva Yoga. There's Karma Yoga. There's Jnana Yoga. There's a bunch of them. Actually, non-dual, what I teach, is Jnana Yoga, the yoga of supreme wisdom. And so, in that sense, if used in the traditional way it was used for, it can be a help, but it can't take you there, right? Like many things I use in terms of different kinds of techniques and stuff to help people get into their body, center their body, and then transcend the body by going through it, not by trying to get rid of it, is a way of assisting one in be able to really purely and with focused intent do the inquiry that does lead to enlightenment. Right. Now, as far as Kundalini Yoga is concerned, again, I have to refer to the original of it, how it traditionally was developed, and our modern adaptation to it. And our Western adaptations are all very, very impure reductions. Hatha Yoga becomes about looking good and yoga pants, right? Meditation begins reduced to stress release or manifestation. And Kundalini is reduced to having the Kundalini arising, this flow of energy that is supposedly, the energy is released, goes up to the crown chakra, and now you are enlightened. None of that is so. The Kundalini model represents, with the 7 chakras, and traditionally it's always pictured as this line of light going up the center, and around it are coiled 2 snakes. The 2 snakes refer to immortality because they shed their skin. It refers to the transcendence of the instinctual and the awakening to the transcendent, to who you really are. This is the idea of the lower and the upper chakras. The lower chakras representing your animal nature, the upper chakras spiritual nature, and the rising of Kundalini. And the word Kunda is simply snake, right? Is rising, is consciousness divesting itself, shedding its skin of the instinctual nature, opening the heart to the feet of the guru, and eventually merging with the reality. That's what it actually stands for. And people know it's this, and they have this experience. And most of the people I know who've had what they call the Kundalini awakening, it has been a very unpleasant thing, and they're never the same since. It's this release of all this energy, and they're not really spiritually prepared to deal with it. And so it becomes kind of an artificial thing. It's almost like kind of being blasted into some place, and you're not ready for it. So, but if you look at what the actual model is, it represents death and resurrection. It represents the cross, because the heart is the crossover place between the two fields. And it has a beautiful meaning behind it as a model to help us, to guide us in understanding the process of spiritual awakening. And the Advaita, of course, goes right to the heart of that, transcends all of the models, takes it instead of being a progressive model where you're going through this, that it represents what can be, in fact, the instantaneous experience, the Zen moment of, I am that. And that's the realization. At that point, all the yogas are no longer needed, right? All teaching is no longer needed. All functions or processes and practices, they're no longer needed. And you're simply sitting either in the space of the full knowledge, or simply knocking on the door without any effort and without any practice. So I hope that answers your question about I hope it's clear. If the inquiry is there and the understanding is there, all of these practices can assist, but none of them will get you there. In my experience, the only thing that will get you there is the inquiry, the getting to the place of complete disidentification with form, with all thoughts, feelings, and sensations, and immersing yourself in the pure sense I am, and nothing else. And in that immersion, you're asking the question, who am I? And the answer to the question, when posed there, is enlightenment or self-realization. It is not an answer that comes any other way. It is the realization I am that, not just the thought of it. Thank you so much, Sifu. No, I don't want to know that I go to high school 4,000 times. Thank for your pondering and love too. Yeah, people think about the next life, and it's like, oh my God, I do not want to go through that again. Happy Easter to you, Mary, as well. Playing Empty Space is pretty awesome. I'm loving it. Hey, Playing, good to see you. Isn't that Beavis and Butthead? Is that your Jay says, happy Easter. I am Paido. What is Paido? Faith. I'm a sheik. When it comes to surrender, I notice that I have problem trusting to live what myself wants me to live. I'm afraid that it will betray me, and I will be stuck always here in Algeria. Well, yeah. That's, yes. It's the last bit you're holding on to, right? You're saying, okay, I'll surrender, but tell you what, let's make a deal. I'll surrender as long as I don't have to live here. And I certainly understand that, right? It's easy to surrender, right? I've lived in really beautiful places, right? I lived in Miami, New York, Seattle, right? I wasn't so surrendered when I lived in Palatine, Illinois. I was really wanting to get out. If I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, which I had to spend 2 years there for 2 weeks, because that's what it felt like, was 2 years. I would be more challenged on this, not my will, but thine be done. But as you can see, you have a problem trusting in it. Think about today's Easter. Think about the Garden of Gethsemane. When Christ confronting the path he realized he had to walk in, right? And he said, look, I don't want to do this. If it's possible, let's find another way. And then he go, but nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. And it was not easy. He struggled over it. It said he struggled so intensely that he literally sweat blood out of his skin. It was intense, right? To let go of the way we think things should go. With this looming on the surface that, my God, I won't get what I want. That I that won't get it want, that is what is to be surrendered. It's not this I giving up what it wants. It's you, the consciousness, giving up that I. It feels like that the thing I really want, I'm not going to get. But what you're really getting rid of, becoming free from, what's really dying, is the I that is so attached to that it thinks it can't be happy without it. This is the death of the ego. This is the crucifixion. That entire experience, the Garden of Gethsemane, all of it is the crucifixion. Without this crucifixion and the attending surrender, remember on the cross, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. It is finished. Into thy hands I commit my spirit. And that was the moment of complete and total release, even to his own death. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. But that is a metaphor. Right? No, it wasn't he appeased God's wrath, and now you don't have to do any of that stuff. You can you can listen to Joel Osteen tell you about how much money you should be making and the like, or one of these other guys, because he already did it. No. That's you. That's you on that cross. That is you having to go up there and make that same sacrifice, and nobody but you can do it. And this is going to be the struggle. It's going to be, how do I surrender if that's going to happen? Not my will, but thine be done. And Christ is a prophet, even in Islam. He's recognized as one of the prophets, not the prophet, which is Muhammad, but one of the prophets that preceded Muhammad. So he's highly regarded in Islam as well for the same kind of experience with the same kind of message. Yes, it isn't easy. The more you learn to simply allow your feelings, the more you do the inquiry, the easier it gets, because you're not tricked anymore, right? Because the ego has simply decided that if I get this, I will be happy. If I get this, I won't. When you begin to see that it's completely arbitrary and it's not true, it's a mirage in the desert, the promise that it has of the happiness isn't there, and the threat of the misery also isn't there, that it's the mind's projection, you can begin to simply let go, and you find a happiness that is your nature, and it is right here and right now, and you are that. Thank you so much for bringing that to me. It really does my heart good. And for everybody else, right, who has a struggle letting go. Yeah, it's a struggle. You're letting go of your life. You are consciously entering into the crucifixion. Right? Now, how do I market the crucifixion? Right? Hey, everybody, come for 3 days. We're going to kill and torture and kill you. But yeah, Sunday's going to be great. Sunday's going to be a party. Oh, you can draw people into all sorts of wonderful retreats, but how do you make somebody step up truly to abandoning, to truly seeing through the deception, the self-deception of the egoic mind and all of its promises? That's my job. Okay, Jay, you have been hacked. You are definitely not Jay. Block. Okay. Because Jay doesn't talk like that. Somebody hacked your account, my friend. I just noticed. I blocked them, which I mean I'm blocking you. So we'll have to try to find a way to get you on. But somebody was imitating you, and for the life of me, I do not understand the pleasure that is derived from it. Oh, I guess I did. I used to do prank calls when I was a kid. Before the cell phone and they could see you. Oh well. Let's see. Mindfulness. Daryl said, I should have explained better. I meant in terms everyone and everything around me realizing it's all going to go. I'm actually quite content with feelings. I'm fully present through it all. Very good. Yes. Good. No, I sense that. I sense that. Just trying to make the point very clear that this stuff's going to come up. And it's going to invite you into a egoic relationship with it, either for or against. And if you don't go there, you'll be good. Boy, I'm sorry about that, Jay. You can't chat, but you can still hear me. Jay said, it's either hacked or somebody stole my profile pic. I'm trying to figure something out. Well, type something now and I will check to see if you're getting it, because I blocked them. Same archives. Last part was meant as a question. I think it may have just been, you took your picture, stole it, and put your name. But I think you're still here. So I didn't block you, I blocked that guy. Okay, so Jackie says hello. Hello, Jackie. Good to see you. Good to see you. I like the way you spell your name, too. Jacqui. Let's see. Ava, dear Jean, everybody. I'm late today. Happy to be here. We'll listen the first hour later. Good. Yeah. Sort of your, oh, it isn't you. Whoever it is, stop now. Yeah, I mean, I don't see it till I scroll down to that point, but I have blocked him now, so. Facebook user, e.g. I'm experiencing a lot of, oh my God, 2 hours and 10 minutes already? How many comments do I have here? I think yes, I think you did. Enlightenment is mental suicide, a dying of the conditioned mind. Yeah, but don't be so heavy, heavy about it, because nothing really lived, right? The ego isn't a thing that's dying because it never lived. Something that never lived can't die. It's seen as being non-existent. The repercussions is there's some attachment to it that can feel like you're losing something. But the reality is there was never anything there in the first place. It's like you can't kill a cartoon character. There's nobody there. You can't kill Siri, right, on your phone. You can't strangle a puppet. Oh my God, GP, I just saw how I interpreted the death of Jesus as he surrendered, that I took it as all surrenders led to physical death. Ah, no, they lead to resurrection. Let's see, there was somebody I skipped back here, and I don't want to do that. Somebody with anxiety, disassociated with life, it feels extremely scary the more self-inquiry I do. I start to become aware of my thoughts that are gibberish. Makes me feel crazy to have thought patterns that have no sense. This all makes me feel like I'm going crazy. Is this normal? Oh, dear one, you are going sane. No, this is all the stuff that's been going on that you simply haven't noticed because it's been so close and identified that you didn't know was happening. You're actually now looking at the utter disaster and schizophrenic mess the mind actually is. This is a sign of awakening, and yes, it's going to be, whoa, what the hell's going on? And I'll find myself, my mind doing stuff and going, what was that? I mean, just, the nervous system is trying to find something to hold on to, right? And you've stepped away from that. And your job is to keep doing the inquiry, and eventually the nervous system will stop trying to find something to hold on to over here and start reorganizing around you, the real you, the you that is becoming clear. And then all of that gibberish will start to fade away. Well, it'll first become comical. You'll realize what a schizophrenic mess the mind actually is. Everybody's mind is. This is the way everybody's mind has been trained. And you are becoming sane. You are going quite sane. So yes, it is definitely normal, as pretty much many of the people here can testify to. Thank you, G, says David and Eileen. Beautifully answered. About the electricity. Good morning, Carrie, in Australia, and it's a really early morning for you. Not a Christian, but happy Eastern. Dale. We knew it wasn't you, Jane. Either that lack of sleep had caused an interest, or yeah, that's right, or all the lack of sleep from your kid is brought out your evil twin, or what is it? The multi-personalities. Let's see. Tamana Zainab. To you. Ida Catherine Anger. Love you so much. Love you too from Norway. Leo says, Ramana Maharshi says there are no others. Can you explain what he means by that? Thank you very much. Oh boy. I'm supposed to bring it to a close now. Start here. Instead of trying to, nobody's there, right, which you can get to. And in fact, Nisargadatta's spiritual initiation, his introduction from his guru. He said his guru told him, "You alone are." And he said, I believed him, I trusted him, and I puzzled over that statement. How can I alone be? I alone am. It's a powerful mantra all by itself. But notice this. You never experience the full experience of anyone, do you? Every one that you experience is filtered through your own perceptions, your thoughts about them. And so you are experiencing more your perception than them. So in a sense, you're experiencing you and not an other on a very practical level. This is simply the way the mind works. Like at night you have a dream and you're having interactions with people, but in fact none of those people are actually there. It is all a subjective experience. In our waking dream, when we really look at how perception works, we recognize that we're experiencing little to none of them. We are experiencing our ideas about them, a pure projection. And the more unconscious and unawake I am, the more that's true. I'm not experiencing them at all. That's a good place to start breaking down what is real of what I'm actually experiencing. And then you can begin to merge into that question, into that statement to puzzle over. I alone am. But to truly grasp that, there has to be a sense of what the true I really is, and what the belief about I really is. And then you'll begin to crack this mystery of there being no others, which is not an aloneness, right? Or a sense of oneness and no other, because that oneness has no boundary. The one and the other simply merge into the one. And so one and many become one. And so there's no sense of other, but there's no sense of I either. They both disappear. And in order for there to be an other, there has to be an I. In order for it to be you, there has to be an I. And you are always the first person, aren't you? So it's something to really chew and contemplate over. It's not the kind of thing that can just be explained, because the mind can't grasp it. So, let's see. Hours and realize what happened. How long will this continue? I notice I get lost in the moment of something happening, with all the feelings associated with it for a few hours, and then realize that happened for how long will this how long will this continue? How long will this go on, Lord? It seems to happen with the same activities. It'll happen as long as it happens, and just thank God you're become aware of it when you do. Eventually the time will shorten. Don't worry about it. If you're trying to get it shortened, you've made it into an enemy, and you'll actually make it longer. Because now you've created an entity where there isn't one, created a problem where there isn't one. So instead, just completely enjoy, look, I was asleep again. Look at that. Oh, I was asleep again, right? You could only have known that you drifted away by becoming aware of it. Cherish that awareness. Right. That'll take care of the rest. And I'm kind of, last part was meant a question, forgot the question mark. It's okay, I got it. Can Kundalini rise as a surge and then drop as fast as it came? I believe I have had that experience. It's possible. It could just been an energy flow that you experienced. Don't name this stuff, right? The mind naming something turns it into something it actually isn't. With the mind naming something, it becomes kind of a permanent resident in the psyche. If you don't name it, it's just an experience. It came and it went. Move through. It becomes insignificant, unimportant, and non-problematic. And I'm speeding up because I'm already 2 hours and 20 minutes in. What are your thoughts about having a one-track mind? Pretty much only interested in the spiritual awareness stuff and not really interested in talking about much else. Perfectly natural. I talk about this stuff all day, every day. And I do have absolutely no interest in anything else. I was invited to talk at a telesummit, and I agreed because it's a good friend of mine. And then when I realized what the subjects were and what all the people were talking about, I went, "Oh, brother!" I am so distant from that world. I mean, a lot of the stuff I used to teach and talk about, 5-10 years ago, I've taken all of those videos down because it's just, I wasn't really interested in them, but I used them as a way of making a bridge for people to kind of get over into this inquiry, but now I don't even want to do that anymore. So I don't. Yeah, this is because this is the most important thing to you. This is where your heart is. This is what you treasure. This is what you value. Of course, you're going to want to do this. And you'll find that what you do during the day, this is what Nisargadatta did. It completely absorbed him. But he was a householder. He had kids, he had a wife, he had things he had to do. He had this little business, little kiosk thing that he was running. So what he said, he did everything he had to do. He fulfilled all his duties. And every spare moment he had, he devoted to this. So if you're in a position where you can just let all of it go, and your life is, your everyday life is okay, you're in no danger of being evicted or something, then do it, right? You'll find that a balance will strike. There'll be times when you just want to let go of that and take a walk or do something else or watch a movie or make a meal or something like that. And other times it'll be like you just can't put, you're just there. But don't turn it into a quest or a discipline you have to do. Keep the joy in it. Now you're noticing that you really don't want to do anything else. It's like being in love. When you're in love, you don't want to be anywhere else but with your beloved. Right? It's simple as that. And this is the same kind of thing, and it does get that kind of absorb me, because what's more important than awakening to your true being? Nothing. And that desire does make all other desires fall away. All lesser desires fall away. And it does become very focused and eventually ends in the merging of that desire with the freedom that has been sought. So wonderful, Lily. Thank you. Mary, oh yeah, I saw this one earlier. It is hard, I feel the resistance in my chest, it's painful burning. That's Gethsemane. That is the Gethsemane experience. Yeah. You're going to do it. You're going to find that energy that finally says, "Thy will be done." And there'll be other times when you'll run into something. I still every now and then run into something and go, "Oh, thy will be done." No, I want to. Thy will be done. Struggle's there. For Christ, it was there all the way to the end. I mean, this is the guy who did miraculous things. And this was all the way at the end, and it was still there. There are not many people in history where that was completely gone. Ramana, Nisargadatta, Muji, my teacher, Buddha. There are many in that tradition, and others not. Yeah, I mean, for Christ, at least as far as the story goes. We don't really know all the details because it's so mixed up with the mythology of it. But the lesson is clear. You are going to have a Gethsemane moment, and you're having it. Mary says, "Eat, oh health, that I must be afraid of." Yes. Enlightenment, mental suicide. Oops. Where are we going here? Oh. There we go. It was planned. I think I missed you. Ah, yes. Beavis, all right. Cool. Classic 90s. Nice to see you, Bob. Nice to see you, too, brother. Thank you again for great satsang. You're welcome. Thank you, Patricia. Wonderful answer. Great questions. Take care of it. Much love from Robert Hill. Thank you so much. Beautiful satsang. Okay. Happy Easter. Apologies. It's okay, Jay. Everybody knew it wasn't you. so uncharacteristic of you. I had that happen to me once, a long time ago when I was still on AOL, right? Somebody hacked and was saying a bunch of nasty stuff. And, most people knew it wasn't me, but there was a couple, yeah, it's you, I know. Unless, it's that evil twin, I don't know. Missed so many good parts. Thanks, man. These hackers are a headache. Yeah, they are. Fortunately, I don't get that many of them. I've gotten a few. And they're just annoying. Anyway, thank you one and all. Thank you for joining me once again on this journey inward. And I will be announcing a new class. I'll be announcing it at the end of this week or at Satsang on next Sunday. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of Easter, except for those of you in Australia, and I think probably in South Africa where it's already probably passed. And but for the rest of you, have a wonderful, beautiful day, and enjoy your own ongoing resurrection. And remember, the reward of the surrender and the crucifixion is the resurrection to eternal life. See you all next week. Namaste.